talking now with new Robert C. Byrd head football coach Austin Scott, a 2011 graduate at RCB. Welcome to RCB officially, I guess, Coach Scott.
Thank you.
So you were a student here. Yes. Then you left. Then you came back. You were assistant coach. Now you're a head coach. What is it like? What are the differences between those three distinct jobs?
Well, I think starting as a assistant coach here, I was blessed to have some really good head coaches that I got to work for, and I learned a lot, as a player and an assistant coach. As an assistant coach, I think you're kind of in your own world. You're not really worried about, a lot of the things that the head coach is worried about per se. I think when I was an assistant and defensive coordinator, I was kind of just worried about, the guys, and then what scheme we have to get right, and breaking down the next opponent. But now as a head coach, obviously you're worried about a lot more things. Now I'm in the building as well, so I'm making sure we're staying disciplined in the classroom and we're all acting how we're supposed to. And then being a head coach scheme wise, I think I'm a lot more involved on the offensive side of the ball, whereas before I kind of just kept to myself about that.
So that's a great point. Being in the building and being able to see your players, your student athletes every day, that's got to help.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. I love seeing those guys every day, and I like, staying on top of them because, football's, only a little part of their life.
Yeah.
They have to be invested into, academics and their character outside of school and the football field.
So what are you worried about, or what do you think about most as a head coach during the week and then on game night?
During the week, I just want to make sure, all our kids are acting how they're supposed to, being role models in school and making sure they're staying on top of their academics, and then when we come out to practice, I think that's when everything's kind of normal and back in my element as an assistant coach, head coach. I don't think it really matters. Once we're at practice, we have a lot of the same coaches that we've had before, so I know how those guys work, and I know how we handle practices.
And Coach Garrell, who was a former coach last year, you played for him when you were a student here, student athlete. What's the biggest thing that he taught you and that you now try to implement or now that you use?
I think one of the biggest things that he taught us and that I'm trying to hone in with these guys is togetherness. As a football team, I think it takes a special individual to play football, and football team's a lot bigger than a lot of other sports. So I think that key of staying together and becoming a family and a brotherhood, I think that's one thing that he taught us when I was a player, and one thing that I think a lot of coaches try to implement on their kids.
Right. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your players. And I know you've got a young team, but what are some of their strengths and some of their weaknesses, if you will?
Well, I think one of the weaknesses is right there. I think they're just young and very inexperienced. A lot of the guys that were playing as freshmen and sophomores, typically wouldn't be playing varsity. I know when I was a player, playing as a freshman was unheard of, really.
Right.
And even as a sophomore, if you're playing as a sophomore, you're really good and really mature. So I think that's just one of the biggest weaknesses, is that they haven't really experienced high school football, that much or at all. And then the strength, I think I tell everyone this, is our guys work hard, and I think they compete, and that's one of the biggest things that I wanted them to, take on, is just being competitive about everything, never quitting, no matter what the score is, no matter what, the outside sources are going on in your life. Don't ever quit, work hard, and stay disciplined.
Now, the first-year schedule has not been kind to you in any way, shape, or form. We might even say it's been mean. You opened up with 3 road games. You had to go to Kaiser, and now you have Bridgeport coming in this Friday, and they're always a top-notch program.
Yes. Well, I mean, you can't do anything about it. I mean, the schedule is a schedule, and I really wouldn't change it. Anyways, I just think, whoever's on your schedule, you go and compete against them. I tell my guys all the time, I don't care if we're playing the Little Eagles or the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got to just go compete and live with the result.
So that's a lesson you want to teach them. You got to play the hand you're dealt. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but it'll make you stronger in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, being competitive at the end of the day is that all I ask of them. And, go out and compete and give it everything you got, and then whatever the result is, we'll live with that, win or lose.
So I know you have implemented some things that you've learned from your coaches here in the past, and this may be too early, and you may not be able to do it because of the personnel you have now, but down the road, what are you looking to do schematically, strategy-wise, on defense and on offense, and then overall?
Well, if you know me, I mean, I'm a defensive guy, so as far as defense, I mean, we probably haven't changed that much. I think we've, taken a little bit off of them as far as, what to handle, scheme wise and how many things we carry into a game because they're so young. But defensively, I'm a 3-4 guy, but we like to mix it up and, cause havoc up front. Offensively, like you said, I mean, it's a little personnel dependent, so sometimes things change year to year. But at the end of the day, I think you got to run the football no matter what. I don't care what level you're at. If you cannot run the football, you're probably not going to be that successful. So everything starts at that point of attack, being able to run the football, and then, being able to, pass the ball vertically and get some play action, and then even stretch them out horizontally with motions and, stuff outside. So I think it really depends, but, that's my style. We have to run the football at the end of the day, and then you can develop the pass game as well.
Now, special teams, they're always difficult or can be difficult in high school. How are they coming along for you this year?
Very well. I mean, kickoff, I think, has been one of our struggles, just since I've been an assistant and a coordinator. One of the hardest things to do is, cover on kickoff, and it's purely an effort thing. So it's really, driving that home that we always tell our guys that's the first play of defense. It doesn't start whenever they get the ball on offense. Whenever we're kicking off the ball, that's our first play of defense. And I think we've covered very well this year as far as that goes. And, it's just one thing you always have to work on to get better.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were at Byrd, you played on a grass field, a natural turf, right? How much better would you have been if you'd have played on a natural or an artificial turf?
Well, honestly, I think that's just a maintenance type thing. I think just having turf is just easier for everyone to take care of. I think if you ask a lot of football players that they would rather play on grass as long as it's well kept.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge of having a grass field, is making sure it's a nice surface.
Yeah. So let's switch gears again. We know what you're doing here at the school. We know you're teaching at the school. You're in the school. You're coaching. Tell us just a little bit about your family and about yourself personally, if you will.
Well, I mean, if you know me, I have 3 kids,
And you're a new father, right?
I am,
yeah.
Yes. I have a 3-week-old now. So, I have 3 kids, so it's been a little challenge, trying to be the head football coach. I just started out as teaching in the building and, trying to manage all those things, but I think it's amazing. I love being in the school.
You've got to have a good general manager at home, obviously, right?
Obviously. I mean, I couldn't do anything without her.
So last but not least, what are your goals for this program a year down the road, 3 years, 5 years down the road? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think the last few years even, and, just because I'm a head coach, things have changed a little, but not so much. I think it's just getting back to where we were, before, like when I played and, around those years, and even a few years ago, just to be able to compete and make runs at a state championship and, develop these guys. I don't care if we win 10 games or none. I just feel like the most important thing is, making an impression on these kids and being a good role model for them so that they can be, good people when they leave here.
Well, Coach Scott, we certainly want to thank you for taking the time to come over
sir.
here and talk with us out of your busy schedule. Football and 3 kids and a newborn certainly are challenging. So we want to take this opportunity to tell you to join in tonight and watch the Flying Eagles as they make their home debut against the crosstown rival Bridgeport Indians here at Robert C. Byrd High School in Clarksburg.